Hi everybody, welcome. Today is Friday and I want to talk about something that comes up all the time when I'm talking to moms on the phone, when I'm talking to them in clinic. It comes up in my programs, it comes up all the time. And to be honest, it comes up even with friends and family and so forth. And that is the feeling that we need to eat perfectly, or we need to do things perfectly, or it's not going to work. And recently, more than one client was saying how they were feeling overwhelmed, that they felt like they needed to do things, the meals and the eating perfectly. Even despite, in my first intro into the program, one of the recordings, if you will, or things that they have to listen to, is understanding that this is not about perfection, that you need to just start and you do not need to do this perfectly, that trying to do this perfectly, trying to eat perfectly will actually lead you to failure. And I find that perfection is something I see a lot with the moms I work with, because they really know that there's a lot of other elements to what's going on with their children. They've done a lot of research. They understand that food, nutrition, gut healing, nourishment, all of that plays a really instrumental role. And because they know all this research, it feels like they need to get things perfect, or things won't shift or change or happen. And what I'm telling you today is that if you try to do things perfectly, you are actually not going to be able to continue or get started, or for it to be sustainable. It will just end up falling to the wayside, because it's literally impossible. And trying to do things perfectly will literally prevent you from getting started. So, the one thing I want to mention, so first of all, before I started working more specifically with children and families, I used to specialize in eating psychology and emotional eating and all of that type of stuff. And one of the big things that I had to address early on in my program was with women, either because they had what was called like almost diet PTSD. And that results from this all or nothing approach, right? This 30 days to super slim and all of these weird gimmicky things where you have to eat exactly like they're saying and you can't cheat and da da da. And the worst thing you can do for you or your family when you're trying to shift your eating to something healthier is to start with what's known as the all or nothing approach. And so that is that I'm either doing it perfect, or we're not really following the diet right now. And that's what I see all the time. I see it with friends, family members, clients, prospects, all that type of stuff, where they they have this mentality that you're either eating healthy, and that means like green smoothies in the morning and salads at lunch and stews in the evening, or you're eating, pizza and French fries. And there is an in between, and you don't have to do things perfectly. And you don't have to do things perfectly to see results with your children, because that is what a lot of my clients do, is we start where they are, we weave things in slowly. If we try to do things all at once, what's going to happen is it's not going to be sustainable. It's going to be something you might be able to do for 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks. And then after a while, things are really going to start to go off the rails when your child has to go to a birthday party, or you're both really fed up of eating carrot sticks for movie night, or you've never done any of this before and you're feeling really resentful, or you're not used to you're trying to do insane amounts of meal planning and meal prep when you've never done any of that before. So it's really about finding that balance. So my very first tip for you, if you are trying to shift your eating to avoid the trap of eating perfection, is to start small, just small changes. Stop the nonsense with like, I'm going to eat healthy, so I'm going to start cutting out X, Y, and Z. And don't focus on what you're cutting out. Start with what you're going to add in. So this is what is known as the crowded out approach. You're not focusing on all the things you can't eat. And this isn't just a trick of the mind. You're literally not going to worry about that to start with. You are going to start with, what can I add in that would be more nourishing? So if I have a client who says, well, every Sunday we do spaghetti, then what can we do? And not that spaghetti is the worst meal ever, but let's say they know that their child eats nothing but carbs and it's, affecting them and their cognition and behavior and all of that type of stuff. What can we do to make the spaghetti more nourishing? What can we do to make Maybe their favorite meal is mac and cheese. What can we add into the mac and cheese sauce to make it more nourishing? Maybe it's something like adding a bit of pureed cauliflower into the sauce to get more nourishment in there. And one of the biggest reasons why we want to get nourishment in is because one of the reasons we crave sometimes unhealthy foods is because our body's actually gravitating towards like a certain element of that unhealthy food that we need. So for example, you've probably heard, when women are PMSing, we tend to crave chocolate. That's because of the magnesium. And then we, instead of craving or eating really healthy dark chocolate, we're eating the milk chocolate from Walmart. So what you want to do is you want to focus on crowding out by increasing nourishing food. And as you increase you and your child's nutrient density, those other cravings will somewhat reduce. And then if you're going to then go to the next step, which is focusing on not just crowding out, but literally crowding out to the point where you're now starting to remove certain foods that you don't want your child eating or you don't want to be eating, then you want to do foods that are high in sugar. For example, I usually suggest starting there because sugar is, for one thing, you've probably heard 8 times more addictive than cocaine. So you can't, it's not your fault, right? This isn't about willpower. That's like telling a heroin addict they can eat or they can have heroin, occasionally, and everything in moderation. And sugar isn't really one of those things we can have in moderation. I will say that is one of the few things, as clients move through my program, we gradually move towards completely eliminating sugar, but we do it in a really sane, sustainable way where people don't feel like they're being punished, because my clients first learn what they can add in to substitute that, so they can still have really yummy treats, maybe with some honey or maple syrup or some stevia, so that they're not completely depriving themselves. But sugar is one of the things that wreaks havoc on the body because, number one, it drives really insane ravenous food cravings. Number two, it depletes all kinds of nutrients, minerals, magnesium being one of them. And number three, it really feeds a lot of gut bacteria, yeast, all that type of stuff. And so what's going to happen is your child's body is being affected in 3 ways. And by eliminating that gradually, in a very, let's just say, sustainable and sane approach, your child will be able to actually stick with it, and so will you. And the results will be increased nutrient density, less ravenous cravings, and also their gut bacteria is going to become more balanced. And I can't tell you how many parents, and sometimes even skeptical ones, sometimes skeptical dads, who are kind of like, okay, let's do this program. And they're more into the brain training part. They're not convinced about the food part because their child has a learning disability and they think this is an ADHD. They need brain training. And then they reach out and say, oh my goodness, we haven't even started the brain training, and he or she is so much better. We can't believe how much better he's able to blend sounds or sit and focus and do their homework or solve problems or whatever the case may be. So yes, gradually work towards removing sugar and be aware that you're going to fall off the wagon. This happens all the time in my program, and I always want, and I make a point to remind clients, it is part of life. So your child's gonna go to a birthday party, sleepover or something, and they're gonna eat all kinds of garbage. And it's not a fail, it's a learning experience for your child to realize, whoa, this stuff really does make me feel like crap, like what just happened to one of my clients last week. And for the parents, if someone is skeptical or not sure if they really buy into this, to see, wow, this really does make a difference, and to figure out and troubleshoot, okay, how can I change this? What can I do? And this is what I used to do with my clients in eating psychology, is what can I do to improve this so that next time I'm at a birthday party or I'm out at a dinner, I have another option and I don't just go towards, whether it's the cake or whatever. So yes, one of the big factors is crowding out. Then it is eliminating certain things, but doing it in a way that's not insane and is sustainable. And then also removing processed foods, right? Like, and again, do this slowly. This does not have to be done overnight. But if you're going to start removing something, don't focus on things like gluten if that's like 70% of your child's diet. Focus on reducing sugar, crowding it out. Then focus on what processed food do they eat that I can substitute with a healthier option. So it doesn't mean you're throwing out all of the processed food all at once, because maybe if that's all that you eat at home, then maybe you need to do that slowly as well to weave that out. And that will be 100% more sustainable than trying to do a complete overhaul that is going to honestly leave you resentful and burnt out. So whenever clients come to me and they're trying to work on improving their diet, they, as I mentioned, really get stuck on perfection. And it's that perfection that is really going to hold you back, really going to keep you feeling stuck, because it's really not something, if you feel like this is where I should be, this is where I am, you might never get started and even take the next step, because it just feels so daunting, so impossible, and you just put it off and put it off. And then maybe you finally do decide, I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to do a do-it-yourself approach, and you go up to here and it fails, and you think, I can't do this. I won't be able to help my child. And that to me is like such a heartbreaking thing, because I really want parents to know that we can do this slowly. We can, and you'd be surprised what even a few small changes can do. Sometimes, which I'm going to talk about more next week, if there's picky eating, it's addressing certain nutritional deficiencies. It's starting to use supplements, maybe to start to drive up that nutrient or nourishment in the body, to be able to shift the biochemistry and why the picky eating is occurring. But I will dive into that more next week. So let me know, do you have a fear of getting started with healthier eating because you have a obsession with wanting to get things perfect, or feeling like you have to get things perfect, that things won't work otherwise? And let me know, has this been your experience in the past? Have you ever tried a slow approach, where another thing I do in my program is we're just going to focus on improving breakfast to start. Who cares what they're eating for lunch and dinner? We'll work on that later. Let's work on improving breakfast, which is actually often one of the worst meals that kids tend to have in the morning, because of the cereal companies encouraging us to eat lots of grains in the morning, which we never did like 80 years ago and before. So we need, how can we get a higher fat and protein content into our kids' breakfasts, and less sugary, grainy meals? And that will really alter their gut, their blood sugar levels, their ability to focus and regulate their emotions, and so forth. So let me know, whether you're watching in the live or the replay, what your experience has been with eating perfection. Let me know if you are interested in learning more about this, because I have something really fun planned in the let's just say in the weeks to come. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll chat more next week. Bye.